talk to somebody who knows. He ain't got to guess. He knows what time it is. Jim Trotter from NFL.com, NFL Media, NFL Network. What do you know, Jim? I mean, at one point it felt like, over the weekend that it was getting close. Now it feels like they've hit a bit of an impasse, based on reports. What can you tell us about where things stand, if anywhere, between the Dolphins and Texans when it comes to Deshaun Watson?
Well, I'm going to preface it by saying, Mike, I know nothing officially. So how's that? But I will tell you what I believe. What I believe is just what you said. This can't go on forever. And the only reason I believe Deshaun Watson has been okay with being in limbo at this point is the belief that the Texans are going to work out a trade to get him out of there. Short of that, I can't see why the Players Association wouldn't get involved here, and there being an issue with the league in terms of you, a player in limbo, like where he is healthy, is ready to compete, he is not allowed to compete. So it's the reason I believe something's going to go down fairly soon. I think the Texans were hoping in the beginning that the league would put the commissioner's exempt list, which would take it out of their hands at this point. They wouldn't have to deal with it. Short of that, this is something they're going to have to deal with going into week one. I don't think they want to deal with that. I don't think Deshaun wants to deal with it. The problem is they're not going to get the compensation they're asking for because they have simply no leverage.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jim. But let's say they do make this deal. From the Dolphins' perspective, what does that do for them? I mean, I look at the AFC right now. I think it's Kansas City and Buffalo, and then everybody else. But if the Miami Dolphins get Deshaun Watson, do they vault those teams, or are they just kind of rubbing elbows with Kansas City and Buffalo? Just your perspective on that.
No, I don't think they vault them. I think Kansas City, when you look at how it's rebuilt its line, and when you look at what it has defensively up front, when I look at, Chris Jones and Jerron Reed and Frank Clark and the rest, Kansas City did a beautiful job this offseason of reloading after what took place in the Super Bowl. So I believe Kansas City, in my opinion, is still the front runner in the AFC. I believe Buffalo, obviously, coming off the last couple of years, is right there at the heels of the Chiefs. But I believe Miami would be in that conversation too if Deshaun were there. He's that sort of talent. He's a transcendent talent. So this is a team that Chris Greer and Brian Flores have done a very nice job of building up during their time there. And they've got a lot of young talent, and I think it's ready to take that next leap, that next step. Look, it's no knock against Tua, but if you're matching Tua against Deshaun, you got to give me Deshaun.
It's no contest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey Jim, let's overreact a bit, man. The preseason has wrapped up, and based on the preseason, Trevor Lawrence is going to the Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Famer. You're one of the voters, and based on the preseason, a couple hundred miles away from the Hall of Fame, Cincinnati Bengals, they made a huge mistake. They got a bust in JaMarr Chase. All right, so sort that all out for us. Where did I go too far? Where didn't I go far enough?
Well, first I'm trying to figure out what preseason you were watching where Trevor Lawrence is going in the Hall of Fame first ballot, because I haven't seen it yet. And that's not to say he won't be a Hall of Famer one day, but there's work to be done there. So I think he'll be fine. My question is for him, can they protect him once the season starts? There's nothing worse for a young quarterback than A, not having a running game, and B, them not being able to protect you. And the Jaguars to this point have not shown me that they can consistently protect Trevor Lawrence. So I'm going to be interested to see what happens there. As far as JaMarr Chase, I believe that he'll be fine. He has had drops. He has not looked the part thus far because of that. But look, I'm old enough, guys, to go back when Jerry Rice was drafted by the 49ers. And Jerry Rice early on in his career had a case of the dropsies. And there were people questioning whether or not the 49ers had made the right decision there. Now, I'm not saying that JaMarr Chase is going to be Jerry Rice. I'm just saying that sometimes it takes a player a minute to find his footing, to get comfortable, and to become the player that he can become. I believe JaMarr Chase's history in college shows that he can be that dude, and I believe he ultimately will be that guy.
I'm praying you're right.
And we were
I'm
Yeah,
praying.
I know.
Because I will not hear the end of it. I will not hear the end of it if JaMarr Chase. At least,
And
he got
I
at least
just want
catch
to give
bubble
you
screens.
context.
Say
I got to
that
give you
again?
context, Jim.
Go ahead.
He said he's praying. The reason Michael Smith is praying on this is we had a very long, maybe too long, conversation, pre-draft conversation and post-draft about the Cincinnati Bengals. And when they drafted Chase, I said, here they go again. The Bengals screwing it up, doing the least since 1990. And they draft a wide receiver when they needed somebody like Penei Sewell to protect Joe Burrow. And so we went back and forth. I was a Sewell guy. Michael Smith is a Chase guy. So that's why he's sitting there looking like that, because right now it looks like he missed completely.
Well, Michael Smith, I think you're going to be okay. But Michael Holley, I'm with you in this sense. If I were ever a GM, it would be easy for the media and other teams to read me, because I believe football teams are built inside out. And so I'm always going to look to be as strong as I can along both lines if I were to run a team. So you're right. I would have made the pick for the offensive lineman, but it wasn't my call. But I do believe ultimately JaMarr Chase will be fine.
Let's broaden it out quite a bit, and hopefully there's something on the tip of your tongue. I wonder, just staying with the theme of overreactions to the preseason, what do you think, just in your observations or just people you've been talking to, plenty I'm sure, what's the most overhyped preseason storyline, and what's the most underrated or least talked about but needs to be talked about more preseason storyline to this point? Now that we're at the end of the preseason, that is.
The former is easy, I think, for me. The most overhyped is the talk about not playing starters in the preseason. Look, the reality is we knew when the league went to 17 games and ultimately it's going to go to 18 that they were essentially going to do away with the preseason. And so what we're seeing is teams doing more joint workouts. There are coaches who believe you can get more work out of a joint workout than you can out of a preseason game in terms of having your number ones matched up against another team's number ones and getting quality individual work, those sorts of things. So, look, we saw last season there was no preseason and everyone said football is going to be sloppy and ugly early. It was the same product as it had been in years past. So I'm not one of these guys that gets overly worked up about a coach not playing all of his starters or the majority of his starters during the preseason. Raiders Nation went nuts the other night because John Gruden basically left half the team at home because he didn't want to play his regulars. So for me, I'm okay with that. In terms of the underhype, that's a good question. I hadn't really thought about it from that standpoint. I'll tell you what I'm interested in after this last preseason game. We saw Kyle Shanahan playing musical quarterbacks. I'm curious to see if he is going to do that throughout the season, because I think unless I'm mistaken, the last time a coach did that on a regular during the season,
71.
Yes. So I'm wondering
before I was born.
Yeah. Man, he's such a baby. You still got similar.
Because Michael asked me that the other day, and I couldn't recall. He was like, "Who's done that successfully?" And it was Staubach and Craig Morton.
Yes, sir.
Tom Landry in '71 was rotating plays, and I was reminded of that the last couple of days. But yeah, because I'm glad you brought that up, Jim, because I remember you wrote that incredible story about the process by which the 49ers finally, well, they knew it before the rest of us knew it, but arrived at the decision to trade up and draft Trey Lance. So if anybody should know what they're thinking, yeah, definitely be you. So you think Shanahan, is actually willing to be this unconventional?
Mike, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm the know-it-all. I don't know. I look at, it's very easy to understand that Kyle loves Trey Lance. I mean, or they would not have made this move to go get him in the draft. The fact that he would send a message in the final preseason game in terms of using both of these quarterbacks, that says a lot to me. And that says to me also, and again, this is me trying to get inside of Kyle's head. It's not that he has ever said this to me, but it also makes me wonder, knowing Jimmy's injury problems in the past, that they want to make sure that Trey is up to speed as much as possible if Jimmy were to go down, to be able to play and step in and not have a drop-off, so to speak. So I think there are multiple reasons why Kyle may have done that, but it's really intriguing to see if we're going to see this once the real games start.
Yeah. Hey, how interested, intrigued, invested, if at all, are you in NFL Network's Top 100? Like, because that's a player poll. That's a player vote. You
trying to get me fired? You trying to get me fired?
No, man. Like, I'll put it. Okay, I'll say it for you. Look, here. I'll say it. I'll say it. It is hard to give much credibility to a list that does not include its top 100 players, Terry McLaurin. All right, that's that. It's like something's wrong if that dude ain't in your top 100 because he's nice like that. But all right, I'll ask it this way because just focusing on the top.
Mike, let me say it to you. Let me say it to you another way. It's something wrong with the list if Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Donald are not 1, 2 in some order. Okay.
Well, they are. That's exactly what it is. Mahomes 1, Donald 2. So they made it. It's Mahomes 1, Donald 2, Rodgers 3, Henry 4, Kelsey 5, Devontae Adams 6. Now, okay,
go
Tom
back to
Brady at 7.
But wait, I'm not saying this year. I'm saying go back to last year and look at previous year. Every year in my opinion, Aaron Donald should be number 1. I think Aaron Donald's the best player in the NFL.
Me too.
Period. Bar none.
That's what I was going to ask you. That's what I was going to ask you. Why?
Woo. Yeah, to me, he should be at the top.
It's kind of obvious, but like,
in terms of Aaron Donald,
why is he number 1?
Because you can't block him 1-on-1. You struggle to block 2-on-1. You can talk to any coordinator who has to prepare for him or teams that have to play him. He's just so disruptive on the interior, and we all know the fastest way to the quarterback is up the middle, which has changed the way teams have had to block. He's just a dominant player. No matter what you do, you really can't contain him. So for me, regardless of position, he is the most impactful in terms of being unable to stop. You can do things to scheme up to try and stop a quarterback, and we've seen that done. And that's not to take any away. I understand quarterback position is the most important position on the field. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying in terms of pure dominance, no one comes close to Aaron Donald, in my opinion. That's just me.
No, I'm saying you got where I was trying to go. But Brady, again, elevating quarterbacks. Brady at 7. 7 ain't low. That just felt weird. Like, man, even at 44,
but the
7th best player, I'm sure you'll find some motivation in that.
But the third best quarterback.
And the third best
quarterback, and it's fair.
Listen, it's no shame in the 6 ahead of him. There's no shame in the 6 ahead of him. But Brady at 7, I'm like, ooh, that just feels weird, even for a 44-year-old. But the 6 in front of him, it's hard to argue with how dominant those guys are.
Well, you know what's funny to me about Tom Brady? It's like, everyone wants to be the first to say that they predicted he was going to fall off here. So it's like, I get the sense he gets older. No one wants to, I shouldn't say no one, but there are those who don't want to give him his full credit that regardless of if he has lost certain things, he is still so far in terms of recognition, understanding, ability to make throws, and ability to be that rising tide that lifts all boats. I mean, for him to go in there and do what he did with Tampa in year 1, and you know of his greatness because Bruce Arians basically compromised here. And he worked with Tom. He and Byron Leftwich and that offensive staff worked with Tom to figure out what Tom likes and join with what they want to do. Bruce never done that before. You can talk to any veteran quarterback who has played for Bruce, and it was always, you do it my way or you're not going to be here. It's that simple. And that's why you see their numbers in year 1 under Bruce typically are not great. And they get better after they get accustomed to the form. So for Tom, all I'm saying, if you give me one game and you say you got a quarterback, to look past, and there's only one quarterback I would look past him for, and that's Patrick Mahomes. But if you get me into the playoffs and you say I need a quarterback to win it all, I got to see he's 1A or 1B.
Yeah.
I got two quick ones for you. Then we can let you go, Jim. One, I know most NFL players are vaccinated. Most of them are, but the unvaccinated ones make news. And you're a great reporter. And so, have you ever heard? Because I think I'm too narrow-minded to hear it, but you're much more open-minded than I am. Have you ever heard a case from an unvaccinated player that makes you say, okay, I understand why he's not vaccinated, and that makes sense to me?
Yeah, no, it makes sense to me if there are players who can say that, this is a hard one, because if you have had some sort of underlying conditions and you're concerned about the vaccination, and for that reason, it's truly not about, I'm not going to make any sense here. Let me put it this way. I do not understand people who say they're not taking it simply because you can't tell me what to do. That I don't get. Mm-hmm. I do believe there are people who may have conditions where they just don't trust the medicine. Now, the data says it's safe so far. The data says that pretty much everyone who is dying from it now who is hospitalized is because they were unvaccinated. All those things. So there are some that I would give a pass to, Mike, and I know that sounds harsh, but there are some, if they have reasons based on underlying conditions and they say they just don't trust the medicine, I could almost accept that. It's the ones who simply say, you're not going to tell me what to do, that I can't get with. Those are the ones I can't get with.
Right.
I mean, and I probably didn't make any sense there, but
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And then on top of it, won't wear the mask. Because okay, you're just not taking it seriously at all then. You know what I mean? If you're going to say, hey, I'm not taking a vaccine, then you should be doing everything possible. You know, you should be washing your hands more than the doctor. You should be double masking. You should be saying, hey, instead of the vaccine, I'll do everything else. I go over the top doing everything else. But when you won't take the vaccine and you're not following the mask protocols, then something else is going on here.
It's funny. I don't know if you guys have time for this, but so in the off season, I was taking some golf lessons because my game needed it, right? And so the woman that I was taking the lessons from is helping me out, and somehow we got on the subject of that I was going to, for the first time, teach a class this fall at San Diego State. So she makes a comment to me, and she says something to the effect of, "Oh, I hope it's more objective than MSNBC." And my first thought was, why are we even going there when I've hired you for golf lessons? You know, this isn't even a conversation I'm here to have while I'm trying to learn how to putt. But secondly, I'm like, okay, well, what is wrong with MSNBC as opposed to what you're saying, what you're implying then is Fox is okay. And all of a sudden we got in discussion about the vaccine. So I'm trying to give her the data that the CDC is putting out and the medical community is putting out about the impact that vaccine is having in terms of helping to preserve lives and mitigating the effects of the virus and whatnot. And all I'm getting from her is, you trust the government? You trust the government? You know, the data is skewed. It's not for real. And I'm saying, based on what? Well, I mean, where is your thought process coming from? You're going to tell me that the numbers aren't real. Okay, well, what are the real numbers? And so it's just like, it blows my mind. You just can't have a conversation with some people anymore about what is a fact and what is not a fact. And it's hard, man. And there are these people out there, players like that, you know, that there are certain topics you can't have conversations with them about, you know?
And that's
so the moral of the story
is
you ended the golf lesson and you have a new instructor. That's what you're telling us. You got your money back. You got a new instructor.
No, true story. So I paid for 5 lessons, right? That was the 3rd lesson. I've not gone back. I'm just like, you know,
hey, man,
I already paid you for it.
Get your money.
Nah, man. I'm like, it's not even worth it. It's not even worth it. But I'm just like, I'm not trying to get into a political discussion about this with you. I'm just wondering from just a factual standpoint, if the community is giving you the data and saying this is helping, and you're going to say no just because you don't trust the government. I'm just like, man, how do we get past this? You know?
Well,
as a wise person once said, the thing about math is it's true whether you believe it or not. You know?
Hey,
Michael,
that's a lesson. I do. Put that on the syllabus, Professor Trotter. For the journalism class, it's hard. We always talk about facts. It's hard to determine what a fact is, depending on who your readers are. That's one. But here's the other thing, man. We're talking about a very serious subject. Now let's get into some trivial stuff before we go. We had Thomas Dimitroff on. He said some great things about you. He's a huge fan of yours. But he said, why don't you bring up to Trotter, what's up with those white socks? He said he always teases you about wearing white socks. So what? I don't know if we jumped into a middle of a battle. What's going on? What's going on with this, Trotter?
You know what? I knew he was on your show before me because he texted me right as I got off the bike and said something to the effect of, "How you doing, White Sox?" So I knew he had to have been on your show. That's the only way. So here's the story. So I go out to Atlanta when he was a GM. They had a charity golf event. I go out there, and I've got on, white ankle socks below the ankle, And all of a sudden he's giving me grief. He's giving me grief that you don't wear white socks, And I'm like, what's wrong with white socks?
It's ankle socks, though. That's different.
Yeah, they're not even above the ankle.
Yeah,
below
like
the ankle,
tube
right?
socks.
Yeah, they're below the ankle.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
I'm like, what's the problem?
Yeah, that's fine.
So he gave me all kind of grief about it, and I said, look, I understand Professor Dimitroff with the patch on the elbow and your window pane blazers and all of that you're a fashion guy and all that, Mr. GQ, but there is nothing wrong with white socks below the ankle.
Nothing.
Hold your ground.
I mean, Michael Holley's got on this beautiful blazer. So Mike must know something about fashion. Is there a problem with that, Mike?
No problem.
Hey,
I got no problem.
Hey, look.
Wait.
Nothing wrong. Always. White socks, always. Like flip-flops and socks and sweatpants. I sit in my B-boy stands with flip-flops and socks and sweatpants all the time.
There it is.
It
is. Hey, and he made it. You know what? You got to get it. You got to go at Thomas because he made it sound like you had the white tube socks pulled up to your knees.
He did.
And you had on some blue dress pants and some wingtips and white socks. So he totally misrepresented what was there.
Let me say this to you all. The last time I wore white tube socks, I was a freshman in college, and I showed up outside my future wife's dance class wearing these white tube socks, and she made so much fun of me about having on white tube socks, shorts, going to gym class, whatever, that I never wore them again. So I can guarantee you, the day I saw Thomas, there were no white tube socks.
Like you said to your wife, it must have worked.
Done.
We're still
Glad
together.
We got to the bottom
right?
of that.
It worked.
Exactly. You're doing something right. Yeah. Ain't nobody
right,
smoother than Jim Trotter. Don't get it twisted. Trotter, we appreciate you.
Jim Trotter, man.
I don't know about all that now. I see two smooth cats up on my screen right now, One rocking the blazer, one rocking the tee with the hoodie, Not everybody can pull those off. Not everybody can pull those off.
Right? All right, man. Take care.